is talking about.
What's up, family? In 1989, a white woman was raped in Central Park in New York City. And the prosecutors and the police, they did something that they have become very good at doing. They identified black males as their suspects. They rounded up 5 innocent black men, black boys in this case. They were teenagers. And they coerced them into confessions. They beat them, they tortured them, they insulted them, they threatened them and their parents. And they got their confessions, convictions, and sentences. In effect, ruining these boys' lives. In fact, that was the last time that these guys were boys. They were uprooted, stolen from their childhood, blamed for a crime that they did not commit. The young men became known as the Central Park Five, and thanks to a new Netflix series called When They See Us, the world now knows the truth. The woman who led the charge in falsifying evidence against them was a woman by the name of Linda Fairstein. She was the lead prosecutor. Vicious, evil, diabolical person. It's so many of her in DA offices all around America. They don't care if you're innocent or guilty. All they care about is convictions. This woman did these boys real dirty. And now the world finally knows the truth, and she's getting her just. The public is making it real hard on her right now. She was forced to resign from her position at a nonprofit as a board member at Vassar University, and now her book publisher has dropped her. And that's not the end. You know what's interesting is that I read that she was voted Woman of the Year. I can't remember exactly what it was for, but for somebody to acknowledge somebody like that as a Woman of the Year, it speaks volume about how people are rewarded for being evil. Now hear me when I say, this animal deserves to be in prison. These prosecutors, man, they too often fabricate evidence, suppress evidence that could exonerate people, and they don't do it because they want convictions. They want to ruin people's lives. These dudes spent years in prison before their case was overturned. They was not exonerated until 2014. And they were also rewarded a $41 million settlement to bust up between the 5 of them. But I ain't gonna lie, y'all. When I look back at the years that they lost, we're talking from 14, I think the youngest one was maybe 14, 15. When you look back at those years they lost, went right into their 20s, man, that's some of the best years of my life. I wouldn't trade that for money. I wouldn't trade that for the experience of being in prison, going through all of that stuff. When you become a man in prison, it does something to your psyche. Every single dude that I know that became a man in prison messed up to a certain degree, just messed up in the head. It did something to them, and it took a long time for some of them to get on track, and some of them never got on track. They never got on track. So you can't get that back. I would not trade my experience from 14 to 25 years old. I wouldn't trade that for money. I just wouldn't. Some of y'all probably ain't got no problem with sitting in prison if you can come up on $10 million. I guess when they bust it all up. Let's do the math on this. So they got 41 million to bust between the 5 of them. First and foremost, the lawyers would take about 40% of that, 30 to 40% of that. So let's say the lawyers took 15 million out of the 41 million. So they still have, 26 million to play with. You bust that 26 million between the 5 of them, so that gives them about 5 million apiece, right? About 5.2 million apiece. You take out taxes, now you're somewhere around 3 million apiece, maybe 3.5 million apiece. 3.5 million apiece, and let's say they took out 10 years of your life for $3.5 million. That comes out to roughly $300,000 a year. $350,000 a year to spend in prison. It ain't worth it to me. It would not have been worth it to me. Now, even though I feel like she deserves nothing, she should be stripped of everything. This part where they dropped her, it's one thing to drop her from your publishing company. That's one thing, to drop her as a client. But it's something totally different when you start talking about taking her books off the shelves. That right there gets a little sketchy to me, because if they do that to her, they can do that to Alex Haley. They can do that to Michelle Obama. They can do that to Farrakhan. Y'all know where I'm going with this. So that part right there, I'm not too sure about that. But I don't mind being biased in this particular case. If that was a way that we could be biased and we can snatch her stuff off the shelves and it don't affect anybody else down the line. But if we set that precedent, we're going to open up the floodgates for them to snatch books from the shelves by artists who we respect, who earned their stripes. And I don't think any of us want that. I'll leave you with this. I'm not surprised that Linda Fairstein became a best-selling author. She's very good at making up stories. No more talk.
What the haters talking about?